Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to when you want to really get under the skin of your sources, find those surprising connections, and feel, well, properly informed.
And today you've given us a really fascinating set of materials all circling around Malcolm Gladwell's book, David and Goliath.
Yes, it's got some really thought-provoking ideas about power, advantage, disadvantage.
It really does. We tend to think bigger, stronger, richer is always the way to go, don't we?
Yeah.
But this deep dive, it's going to challenge that a lot.
It certainly will. So our mission today, figure out why underdogs win so often, how weaknesses can become strengths, and what happens when the powerful maybe overestimate their own advantages. Let's get into it. Let's start right at the beginning. The big one, David and Goliath. That story. Forever, we've heard it as this miracle, right? Weak beats strong, totally improbable. But what if? What if that whole picture is just wrong?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Goliath. He's expecting a certain kind of fight.
Right, hand to hand.
Exactly. Heavy infantryman versus heavy infantryman. He's weighed down, literally, over 100 pounds of bronze armor, shin guards, helmet, plus 3 weapons.
3.
Yeah, a javelin, a sword, and this massive spear. He shouts, "Come to me!" He's basically inviting a close quarters brawl.
And David, he shows up, turns down the official kit, the armor, the sword, and just picks up 5 stones. And his staff.
Right, and Goliath is just insulted. "Am I a dog," he says, "that you come at me with sticks?" Plural, sticks.
Sticks, but that's the key, isn't it? Goliath's totally missed what David's planning.
Completely missed it. David wasn't playing Goliath's game. He wasn't infantry. He was a projectile warrior. A slinger.
And slinging back then wasn't just chucking rocks, was it?
Oh, absolutely not. It was a highly developed military skill. Think lethal accuracy, up to 200 yards.
200 yards.
Easily. With the stopping power, Gladwell suggests, of a modern handgun. These guys could hit tiny targets, birds in flight even. It was serious.
So Goliath, lumbering forward in all that armor, he's basically a sitting duck for someone like David.
Pretty much. A slow-moving target. And then, get this, there's another layer.
Go on.
Some historians Gladwell cites, they suggest Goliath might have had acromegaly.
The condition that causes giantism.
Exactly. But it also often comes with vision problems.
No.
Poor eyesight. Maybe even tunnel vision.
Okay. So that would explain.
Well, maybe why he needed someone carrying his shield for him. Why he moved slowly. Why he was insulted, not scared, when David approached.
And why he saw sticks, plural, bad depth perception.
It fits, doesn't it?
Oh.
His greatest apparent strength, his size, might have hidden this critical vulnerability.
Wow. So the miracle isn't a miracle at all. It's strategy. It's David understanding the real terms of the fight.
Exactly. King Saul, Goliath, they thought power was just physical might. They didn't see that power could be speed, surprise, breaking the rules. David's disadvantage was actually his winning edge.
And it's amazing how this pattern, this idea pops up again and again. Let's talk about Vivek Ranadive.
Yes. The basketball coach.
The guy from Mumbai knew basically nothing about basketball, right? And he takes his daughter's team, described as little blonde girls, daughters of tech guys, not natural athletes.
Right. Not tall, couldn't shoot well, couldn't dribble well.
And he gets them to the national championships. How on earth did he manage that?
Well, Ranady saw that playing normal basketball meant playing to the other team's strengths. So he did the opposite.
Which was?
Full court press. All game, every game. Totally unconventional.
Full court press all the time. That sounds exhausting.
It was, but it exploited a weakness almost every youth team has. Getting the ball inbounds under pressure. His girls were just maniacal about it. Steals, easy layups. It was all effort. Legs, not arms, he called it.
And the other coaches must have lost their minds.
Oh, they hated it. Screaming, throwing things, saying it wasn't real basketball, wasn't fair.
But Ranadive didn't care.
Not at all. He was an outsider. He wasn't part of the basketball establishment, so what did he care what they thought? His misfit status was his freedom to innovate.
That's a brilliant example. And this connects to something broader, doesn't it? About unconventional warfare.
It really does. There are these striking statistics from Ivan Aragwin-Toft, a political scientist.
Okay.
He looked at wars where one side was way stronger, like 10 times the population and military might.
You'd assume the stronger side always wins.
You would. But the weaker side actually wins almost a third of the time, nearly 30%.
Wow, okay. That's surprising already.
But here's the real kicker. If the weaker side uses unconventional tactics, guerrilla warfare, that kind of thing.
Like Ranadive's press.
Exactly. Their win rate jumps to over 63%.
63.6%. That's incredible. So being weaker forces you to be smarter, more creative.
It can, yeah. Think Lawrence of Arabia. His Bedouin fighters weren't a match for the Turkish army in a straight fight.
Right.
So he used speed, mobility, surprise, attacking Aqaba from the desert side, this incredibly daring 600-mile trip. Totally unexpected. Their lack of heavy equipment, their disadvantage, made them fast and unpredictable.
So the disadvantage forces the winning hand.
Sometimes, yes. It compels innovation.
Okay, but there's a flip side to this coin, isn't there? When having too much of something good becomes a bad thing.
Right. The inverted U curve.
Let's apply that to education. Class size. Everyone thinks smaller is better, right? More attention for each kid.
That's the common sense view, yeah. But the actual research is, well, messy.
How so?
Hundreds of studies. Only about 15% find clear benefits to smaller classes. Roughly the same number find students actually do worse.
Worse? How?
Well, about 20% find no real effect. The rest are inconclusive. There's just no consistent relationship with achievement in the U.S. data. It's not the slam dunk people think it is.
So why doesn't smaller automatically mean better? What's the inverted U doing here?
Think of it like this. Reducing class size helps, but only up to a point. Going from, say, 35 to 25 students, good.
Yeah.
But going from 25 down to maybe 18,
Yeah.
the benefits start to flatten out. Teachers don't always fundamentally change how they teach. Maybe they just have a bit less marking to do. The curve peaks.
And then it goes down. When does it become a disadvantage?
When classes get really small, like super elite private school small. Gladwell mentions Hotchkiss, average class size of 12. They have over $1 million worth of pianos.
12 sounds ideal.
You'd think. But maybe 12 is too intimate for some teenagers. Not enough different viewpoints, not enough peer interaction. Struggling students often learn a lot from their slightly more advanced peers. And in a tiny class, those peers might not be there.
So the advantage of extreme wealth and tiny classes can actually limit the educational experience.
Yeah, it can become a trap, yeah. They assume more resources always equals better, but they miss the downward slope of the U.
And this applies to parenting and wealth, too. You mentioned a Hollywood mogul.
Right. Grew up poor, worked incredibly hard, became hugely successful, but then he looks at his own kids. He sees this giant contradiction. They have everything. They live courtside. They never had to develop the grit, the resilience that made him who he is.
Because they never faced the same struggles.
Exactly. Research suggests money makes parenting easier up to a certain point, maybe around $75,000 a year. Then the benefits diminish.
Diminishing returns.
Right. And then, at very high incomes, it seems parenting gets harder again.
Harder. Why?
Because if you're a first-generation millionaire, an immigrant to wealth, how do you teach your kids the value of hard work when they live in a world where work seems optional? It's hard to say, no, we won't buy something when everyone knows you easily could. It's that inverted U again.
Okay, so advantages can become disadvantages. Let's really flip the script now. What if some difficulties, things we'd never choose, are actually beneficial? Desirable difficulties, Gladwell calls them.
This is maybe the most challenging idea in the book. Take dyslexia.
Right. No parent would wish dyslexia on their child. It makes reading incredibly hard.
Correct. Physically, there's less gray matter in key reading areas of the brain. It leads to struggles in school, low self-esteem, sometimes worse outcomes like depression or brushes with the law.
Doesn't sound desirable at all.
Conventionally, no. But then you look at successful entrepreneurs. A startling number. Maybe a third are dyslexic.
A third? Like who?
Richard Branson, Charles Schwab, David Neeleman of JetBlue, the CEO of Cisco. The list goes on.
Did they succeed despite the dyslexia or somehow because of it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Let's look at David Boies.
Famous trial lawyer, extremely successful.
And severely dyslexic. Didn't really learn to read until third grade. Still struggles with it.
But the law is all about reading. Briefs, cases, statutes.
Exactly. It seems like the worst possible career. But Boies was forced to adapt. Because reading was so difficult, he developed other skills to an extraordinary degree.
Like what?
Incredible listening skills. He had to hang on every word in lectures. And an amazing memory. He also learned to simplify complex information, boil it down to the absolute essence, just so he could retain it.
That sounds like pretty good training for a lawyer, actually.
Right. It's compensation learning. Gladwell quotes someone saying, "What is learned out of necessity is inevitably more powerful than the learning that comes easily."
And Brian Grazer, the Hollywood producer, similar story.
Yeah, struggled massively in school, F grades, dyslexia. He learned to compensate by becoming a master strategist for tests, but also by learning how to talk his way through things arguing his D into a C, as he put it.
Negotiating, persuading, under pressure.
Daily practice, with a gun to his head. What better training for Hollywood deal-making could there be?
So the struggle itself builds essential skills. And there's this idea of disagreeableness, too.
Yes, and it doesn't mean being nasty. In psychology, it means being willing to take social risks, to go against the grain, not care too much what others think.
How does dyslexia feed into that?
Well, if you spend your childhood feeling like an outsider, struggling with something everyone else finds easy, maybe you develop less fear of disapproval. Look at Ingvar Kamprad, IKEA's founder, also dyslexic.
Okay.
In 1961, facing a crippling boycott by Swedish furniture makers, what did he do?
What?
He started sourcing furniture from communist Poland at the absolute height of the Cold War.
That's incredibly risky, politically, socially.
Hugely. Most business leaders wouldn't have dared. But Kamprad, Gladwell suggests, just didn't care a whit for what others thought of him. That's disagreeableness enabling a breakthrough.
Then there's Gary Cohn, later president of Goldman Sachs. His story is pretty wild.
It really is. Held back in school, expelled for hitting a teacher, felt like an idiot. All undiagnosed dyslexia.
And he bluffs his way into a Wall Street job. In a taxi.
Pretending he knows all about options trading. He just jumps in the cab with a senior manager heading to the airport and convinces the guy to hire him by the time they get there.
Most people would be terrified of being exposed as a fraud.
But Cohn, maybe because he'd been playing someone other than himself since elementary school, trying to hide his struggles, maybe he had less to lose. He was used to failure.
Right. He actually said his dyslexia gave him a highly developed ability to deal with failure.
And to see the upside more than the downside. The struggle forged a kind of fearlessness.
It's a powerful concept that the things we fear might actually build the resilience we need.
Exactly. And it's not just about learning disabilities. Think about the London Blitz in WWII.
Okay.
The bombing of London.
The British government expected total chaos, mass panic, hundreds of thousands dead or psychologically shattered.
But that's not what happened, was it?
Not at all. There was fear, yes, but also incredible courage, even indifference sometimes.
Why?
A Canadian psychiatrist, J.T. McCurdy, had this theory about remote misses.
Remote misses.
People who experienced the danger, heard the bombs, felt the blast, but weren't actually hit. They survived. And surviving, again and again, didn't traumatize them in the way people expected.
What did it do?
It created a sense, McCurdy argued, of excitement with a flavor of invulnerability. They'd faced the worst and walked away.
So courage isn't innate, it's earned by facing difficulty and realizing you can handle it. That seems to be the idea. The Germans, trying to break British morale, accidentally made Londoners more courageous. They created a city full of people who'd had remote misses.
That's fascinating. And this applies even to severe personal trauma. You mentioned Jay Freireich.
Yes, the cancer researcher.
Mm-hmm.
Credited with breakthroughs that essentially cured childhood leukemia. A towering figure.
But with a horrific childhood.
Almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
Witnessed his mother's death, father murdered, sent to an orphanage. So traumatic he basically blocked it out for years.
How can something that terrible possibly connect to his later success? No one would call that desirable?
Absolutely not. And Freireich himself wouldn't wish it on anyone. But Gladwell suggests that surviving that kind of remote miss coming through something utterly devastating might have contributed to his personality.
In what way?
His absolute ferocity, his unwillingness to accept the medical consensus of the time, which was basically that childhood leukemia was a death sentence, his willingness to try incredibly risky, insane treatments that other doctors recoiled from.
Because he'd already faced worse.
Perhaps. He had this relentless drive, this ability to push boundaries, to ignore naysayers. It seems his horrific past, paradoxically, might have given him the toughness, the sheer bloody-mindedness to break the frame of the known world in medicine.
It's a difficult idea to grapple with. That profound hardship can forge extraordinary world-changing capabilities.
It is. It absolutely is.
Okay, so we've seen disadvantages becoming advantages. Now let's look at the other side again. The limits of power. When the powerful think they have control, but they miscalculate badly.
Right. Let's go to Northern Ireland, 1969. The troubles are starting.
And Rosemary Lawler.
A young Catholic newlywed. Ordinary life suddenly turned upside down. threats, a bomb near her house,
Wow.
and then the British Army imposes this strict curfew on her neighborhood.
With good intentions, presumably, to restore order.
Yes, the Army had overwhelming resources, and they were following advice, partly from the Rand Corporation, that basically said, you control rebellion by making the costs too high. Force is the answer. General Freeland believed they could just clamp down and impose order.
But they missed something crucial.
They missed the principle of legitimacy.
Explain that. What is it?
It's the idea that authority, to be effective, needs to be seen as fair, predictable. People need to feel they have a voice, that the rules apply equally.
And the Catholic community didn't see the British Army that way.
Not at all. They saw the army siding with the Protestant loyalists who were attacking them, burning their homes. They felt the law was being used against them, not to protect them.
So the crackdown backfired.
Massively. When law loses legitimacy, applying more force just creates more resistance. Then Lawler's own brother, Eamon, is harassed and shot dead by a soldier. That pushed her over the edge. She said, "This was forced upon me. I can't sit in the house." The Army's actions turned an ordinary person into an active part of the insurgency.
Power without fairness creates its own opposition. We see a parallel maybe with Mike Reynolds in California.
Yes, the man behind the three strikes law. His motivation was deeply personal and understandable. His daughter, Kimber, was murdered.
He wanted to prevent that horror from happening to anyone else.
Absolutely. And he believed the way to do it was to make the penalties for crime so severe, criminals would just stop. He saw criminals as rational actors, weighing costs and benefits.
Increase the cost, crime goes down. Makes sense, on the surface.
And crime rates did fall in California after three strikes was passed. Reynolds believed his law was saving lives every day.
But it wasn't that simple.
Not really. Studies on the impact of three strikes are all over the place. Some found no effect on crime rates. Some even suggested it might have increased certain violent crimes, maybe because people facing a third strike had nothing left to lose. The law was eventually reformed, scaled back.
So why didn't just getting tougher work? Is this another inverted U?
It seems so. Even punishment has diminishing returns and can become counterproductive. There's research by a criminologist, Todd Clear.
Yes.
He found that once you start imprisoning more than about 2% of the men in a neighborhood, the effect on crime can actually reverse. It destabilizes families, removes role models, erodes trust in the police.
So taking too many people out makes the community less safe.
In some high incarceration areas, yeah. Like Brownsville in New York. The police were seen as the enemy. A police chief there, Joanne Jaffa, realized that too much law and order was the problem.
So what did she do?
She tried to rebuild legitimacy, focused on community relations, building trust, even delivering Thanksgiving turkeys to the families of known criminals.
Yeah.
People thought it sounded like a bad Hollywood movie, but it actually started to work. Rebuilding trust was more effective than just more arrests.
Which contrasts sharply with Mike Reynolds, who couldn't seem to move past his own grief, right? He couldn't see the limits of his solution.
Oh. He famously told someone impacted by his relentless focus, "It will be over when my daughter comes back." He was locked into one view of the problem and its solution.
Which brings us to one last really powerful example of the limits of power. Le Chambon-sur-Lignon.
The village in France during World War II, under Nazi occupation.
And they did something extraordinary.
They openly defied the authorities, the Vichy government, and the Nazis themselves. They hid thousands of Jewish refugees, mostly children.
Openly. They didn't try to keep it secret.
The pastor, André Trocmé, basically told the authorities, "We have Jews here, you're not getting them." Just outright defiance.
How could a small village possibly stand up to the Nazis like that? Why weren't they all arrested or killed?
It baffled the authorities. They couldn't seem to get to the end of the resources of such a people.
Why? What was their resource?
Their history. The villagers were largely Huguenots, Protestants with centuries of their own experience of persecution in Catholic France. They were experts in evasion and resistance. They'd had their own remote misses throughout history.
So persecution had made them uncrushable.
In a way, yes. It had forged this deep-seated sense of moral obligation and a kind of fearless resilience. When asked why they risked everything to save Jews, they essentially said it wasn't even a decision. They were simply brothers and sisters. Helping was obvious.
Their own history of disadvantage gave them the strength to defy overwhelming power.
Exactly. Their deeply held principles, born from suffering, made the Nazis' power seem almost irrelevant in that context. They simply wouldn't comply.
So, wrapping this all up, what's the big takeaway from this deep dive into David and Goliath?
I think it's that we constantly need to question our assumptions about strength and weakness. David Ranadiv's team, the dyslexic entrepreneurs, the Blitz survivors, LeChambon, they all flip the script.
They show that what looks like an advantage can be a trap. A weakness can force creativity, build resilience, open up new ways of doing things.
Right, and power, especially raw power used without fairness or legitimacy, it always has limits. It often creates its own undoing.
So the question for you listening is maybe this. What things in your own life do you see as disadvantages? Could any of them actually be hidden strengths? Or conversely?
What advantages are you relying on that might actually be holding you back, limiting your options?
It's definitely something to think about, a powerful thought to mull over. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, the race isn't always to the swift, nor the battle to the strong.